Hey everybody, I want to welcome you to our video for Wednesday. This is Kiersten Zile, and I have brought her here today to talk to us a bit about regenerative agriculture and how she got interested in it. So Kiersten, welcome. I would love to know how you got interested in regenerative agriculture. So if you could give us a little bit about your background.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. So I have a background in agriculture. I grew up, I have an ag degree. I went to college for agriculture and very commercial minded then. And I grew up very commercial minded. I did like 4-H, FFA, all of those sorts of things. And I left college like wanting to still research and educate myself. So I decided to do so. At the time, I wanted to kind of find research on organic. A lot of people, the fad then and still is a little bit like organic type thing, like, oh, switch organic, it's better for you. But I had never seen research on like truth on is it actually better for you. And through college, I learned about loopholes and different things. And so after college, probably like 2 or 3 years after college, I came across a book, and I don't know, I could share it right here. It's called Ancient Einkorn. You can get it on Amazon. It's like $40 on Amazon, but you can also, I usually ship it to people. I can get it for like $10, and then plus shipping, I send it to people. But if you're interested in that, I can get the copy for you. But it's cited and everything. And I came across it, and it was talking about chemical sprays and all the things. I had worked with farmers in the past and noticed some things like just kind of like, I don't know, like how the farmer would act around the chemicals and the health impact that they've had by using them their whole life. Because I worked with a guy, and he had that, and it was not a good health condition. But anyway, so yeah, I kind of did a lot of research, and I also had some gluten issues, and I was always studying like nutrition and food in general, for animals and humans. And so after my gluten issue, I realized that farming, food, and health is all interconnected. And yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of the gist of it.
Okay. So tell us what you have learned about regenerative agriculture and how it differs from the typical commercial farming model.
Okay, so regenerative agriculture is more of a holistic approach to building soil, and commercial farming is more of kind of like a fix the soil type of solution. So carbon gets put into the ground and then cycles its way through with regenerative agriculture, and commercial farming is the opposite. But really, regenerative agriculture is about building the soil so you can build more nutritious foods. So it's kind of like growing the root system of the food so that you can produce better nutritious food, because a lot of the food in this world today is depleted of nutrition. And so I've always kind of studied that in like soil and trying to build soil and like do all sorts of experimenting and things. So that's really kind of what regenerative, it's like a more holistic approach versus commercial.
So you say that a lot of our foods that are produced today are deplete in nutrition. And I have heard that the nutritional value of foods that were grown 40 and 50 years ago had a lot more nutrition value to them. What's causing the decrease in nutritional value?
So what's causing it would be things which farmers are doing better today. And I don't ever, let me just say this, I don't ever blame the farmer. I think it goes way higher up than the farmer when it comes to like our food source and like who's really in control of it. But it's really about like breaking up the soil and depleting it of nutrition by adding herbicides, tilling the land when it's not needed. Like there's a lot of tilling that goes on before you plant seed, and that actually disrupts the microbes in the soil, and so it also depletes your soil of nutrition. Therefore, you have to keep applying things like herbicides and fertilizers and things to keep building up the soil to make your plants like live. And it's very expensive to do it. I remember the calculations and things we did with one farmer that I worked with. He was always calculating like, oh, should I spray or should I not spray? And it was always like an insane number. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's crazy how much it costs to farm today. So a regenerative practice is a little bit easier. You don't have to go in as much debt to pay for to have a system that operates together.
Okay, and what would that system for regenerative farming look like? So if the commercial farmer is using fertilizer and spraying herbicides and things like that, what does it look like for someone using regenerative agriculture?
So regenerative agriculture is more of like adding different aspects like livestock and things to eat the plants so that you can have pest control and also weed control. So it kind of is a system that just works together. Like each thing, so usually today in farming, it's more like you're either a grain farmer or you're a livestock farmer. There's not very many people that are both. And if they are, one is not profitable on the profit is not like gaining profit. So they always like get rid of it or whatever. So with regenerative agriculture, you are using the cows, the goats, the chickens, whatever it is, and rotating it so that you can build up the soil. So their waste is building up the soil and it's putting carbon into the ground, building up the microbes and all of that kind of thing. And then they're also eating the weeds, and then different things can help pests as well. You can spray more natural type of things, but you can also use like what you have like with livestock and things to help with pest control.
So are we talking about actually using their waste like cow manure, spreading it across the soil? Is that what the sort of things that we're talking about?
Yes, and you actually don't even have, like normally with a regenerative ag practice, you kind of like let them free range so that they do that for you. You don't have to spend the cost. I mean, equipment to run a commercial type of farm with tractors and all of that is really expensive. So you're actually saving on fuel cost whenever you decide to just use what you have, like use the livestock you have and let them kind of like do a rotation. So like you might have cattle here and then like a few days later you'll move them over here, and it's kind of a big rotating process with like the pigs and the chickens moving behind them, kind of like a big circle system.
Wow. So here's a question for you. If a commercial farmer wanted to change part of their land to regenerative agriculture, what sort of time frame would that require for them to switch it over?
Well, when you're talking about, it's kind of different because every farm is really like different. It just really depends on like cost and kind of what they used before, prior. They do have like mentorships that you can get in. The Soil Health Academy is one you can get into, like that type of a mentorship, and they can help you pinpoint and figure out for you like what your farm and how long it would take. It also matters on like, well, how much profit has your farm been making? How much can you cut cost and certain things? The best thing to do though is just to start, which most farmers have started doing this, doing like no-till cover crops and things like that. But it's not like something that some people that aren't into farming kind of think like, oh, like why can't they just start switching? Like why can't they just start switching to organic or regenerative ag practice? And it just takes a lot of time to build the soil, and then it also takes like money because you just like you got these people don't really want to change. They've been doing it like this for so many years. They also don't want to change. So it's also a lot of personal development on the farmer, but also it's just a lot of cost and time because it takes time to build soil.
So is it better then for someone who's just starting out in farming to decide which way they want to go as far as commercial methods or regenerative agriculture and start on a smaller scale? Do you think that's what will drive the change going forward?
Yes, I do. I've noticed a lot of people, like even more like city people, getting into like a regenerative ag practice and just starting literally in their backyards. Like you don't have to start on 3,000 acres. Like you don't have to start in 100 acres. You can start right now by just growing your own foods in your backyard and just scaling it up as you go. Because if you just start with 100 acres, you're not going to know how to manage that land just yet. You're going to want to make sure that you are starting with something smaller so you can be given more.
That's awesome. Now, how can individuals seek out these sorts of farms? Like, is there some sort of directory system? If I wanted to go out and make sure that the meat that I was eating or the produce that I was purchasing was from a farmer practicing regenerative agriculture, how could I go about and find them?
Well, I will say, even though I eat some organic foods and things, I am huge on like community education over regulation. There's a lot of loopholes in commercial farming and organic farming. There's like tons of loopholes. And so if you don't know what those loopholes are, it's better to just kind of like know, like by sometimes people on some products will start putting regeneratively grown. I know I like to use Thrive Market because they do have organic and non-GMO verified type of foods, but they use like regeneratively grown practices, like more sustainable practices. So that to me means more than just an organic label on some food. And then also the ingredients on them are just much more cleaner. There's not just a bunch of toxic junk added to them.
Okay, so have to do our research on what's in our area, it sounds like.
Yes, you can definitely use some local farms. Like we have a local farm down the road, and they use more regenerative practices. They're not labeled organic or anything, but they're more about community education versus regulation. And so that's why we like to support them. So you can definitely just Google local meats near me, grass-fed meats, or whatever it is that you choose to like, whatever is best for you and your family.
Right. That sounds great. Now, I believe I read in your posts and stuff that you hope to do some of this in the future. Is that correct?
Yes, I have really big plans for, I've always wanted to farm my whole life, and I've always been told, well, if you don't get it passed down to you, you're not going to be able to farm. And so what I've kind of done is kind of done my own research and started gaining my experience now and educating myself now versus just waiting until we buy our farm, which is in the future. But right now we're kind of like stuck at this place where we're like, well, we need to buy something that there's not a lot for sale right now. So yeah, I have big plans for that, and also regenerative type teachings and seminars in the future that I hope to do.
That's awesome. One last thing, I would love for you to tell the group about your group on Facebook where you're talking about these things and your journey towards this goal of having a farm for yourself. So where can we find you?
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. I do have a free community if you would like to join. It's called Well Rooted Farmhouse, and it's all about how farming, food, and health are all interconnected. I'm just like really huge on like wellness as a whole, and so I kind of incorporate all those. I have some free trainings in there as well. But yeah, I also have a blog as well called KierstenZile.com that you can go to.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for that, Kiersten. It was a pleasure talking with you today.
You
So
too.
for those of you following on YouTube, please go ahead and click on the like button and subscribe so you get notices of future videos that we post. And we will put information on how to connect with Kiersten as well as myself in a group on Facebook down below this video. All right, Kiersten, thank you so much.
Thank you.